Who's the real fool? A new teacher noticed a boy in his class who was always being called stupid. During recess, he asked the group of friends why they called him that. Well, he really is stupid, teacher. If you give him a big 5-ruble coin and a smaller 10-ruble coin, he'll always choose the 5-ruble coin because he thinks the bigger size is better. Look, I'll show you. One of the kids showed the teacher by holding out both coins, and the boy chose the 5-ruble coin again. The teacher, surprised, asked the boy, "Why did you choose the 5-ruble coin instead of the 10-ruble one?" "Because the 5-ruble coin is bigger," the boy replied. After school, the teacher approached the boy and asked, "Don't you understand that the 5-ruble coin is only bigger in size, but with the 10-ruble coin, you can buy more things?" "If I take the 10-ruble coin, they'll stop giving me money," the boy answered. Lesson learned. Reading this, you might think the boy is foolish, but he's not. There's a saying, "A fool who pretends to be smart is not as scary as a smart person who pretends to be a fool." So don't underestimate the people around you. The person you think is foolish might be smarter than you think. This short story about the coins will make you rethink how you view others. 2. The woodcutter and the scholar. A woodcutter and a scholar were sharing a boat in the middle of a river. The scholar, proud of his knowledge, suggested playing a guessing game to pass the time, proposing that if he lost, he would give the woodcutter $10, but if the woodcutter lost, he would only lose $5. The scholar thought this would show off his superior intelligence. The woodcutter posed the first riddle. What weighs 1,000 pounds in the river but only 10 pounds on land? The scholar racked his brain but couldn't find the answer, so he reluctantly handed the woodcutter $10. Then he asked the woodcutter for the answer. "I don't know either," the woodcutter replied, giving the scholar $5 back and adding, "I'm sorry, but I just made $5. The scholar was astonished. Moral of the story. In life, many people like to appear smarter and look down on those who are less educated or less intelligent. Sometimes their overconfidence can lead to embarrassing situations. They fail to realize that being too clever can sometimes be their downfall. So, in life, don't fear the smart ones. Beware of the foolish who think they are smart, and strive to be humble and respectable. This very short story about the woodcutter makes us think about the value of humility. 3. The burnt toast. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, I remember my mom would occasionally burn the toast. One evening, after a long day at work, she came home and made dinner for my dad and me. She served a few slices of toast that were completely burnt, not just a little overdone, but black as coal. I sat there looking at the toast, waiting to see if anyone would notice and say something. But my dad just ate his toast and asked me about my homework and how school was, just like any other day. I don't remember what I told him, but I do remember hearing my mom apologize to my dad for burning the toast. And I'll never forget what my dad said to my mom. "Honey, I like burnt toast." That night, I went to say goodnight to my dad and asked if he really liked burnt toast. He put his arm around my shoulder and said, "Your mom had a hard day at work and she's really tired. A burnt piece of toast won't hurt anyone, but you know what can really hurt someone? Harsh words and criticism." He continued, "You know, life is full of imperfect things and imperfect people. I'm not the best at a lot of things, for example. I can't remember birthdays or anniversaries like some other people can. What I've learned over the years is to accept each other's faults and choose to celebrate each other's differences. That's the key to creating a healthy, growing, and lasting relationship. Life is too short to wake up with regrets and resentments. Love those who treat you right and forgive those who don't." My dad could have complained about the burnt toast and asked my mom to make another piece, but he didn't. He knew my mom had a tough day and still prepared dinner for the family without a single complaint. So instead of criticizing the burnt toast, eating it happily made my mom feel appreciated and relieved. What's the point here? It's about how we look at things and how we share and understand other situations. Life is varied and complex. We haven't even fully discovered ourselves, especially as we grow older. No one is perfect, so we shouldn't judge someone based on a small mistake, especially those who love and stand by us. In life, you need to learn how to be understanding of others' weaknesses and limitations. Being empathetic towards the life and personalities of your family, friends, and spouse will help you create a harmonious life around you. Empathy is the key to nurturing family happiness. 4. An old blind man begging at the market corner. It's been raining for days. Nobody likes this persistently damp and chilly weather that clings to everything. The market, though bustling and noisy with crowds and competition, seems all the more dreary. In a corner, an old blind man sits hunched over. His clouded eyes stare off into the distance. In front of him is a worn and rain-soaked straw hat. He's been sitting there a long time, his face marked by hardship yet radiating kindness. The wrinkles of old age tell the story of a life filled with trials. His thin coat, now soaked, has turned from faded brown to dark. The market is busy. People rush by. A stylish young woman on a scooter stops nearby to shop. She glances at him and mutters, "I see him here every day. He's got arms and legs. Why does he have to beg?" After shopping, she speeds off, splashing water onto his hat. The old man silently follows her departure with his blurred vision. As the crowd thins, some women who have sold out their goods early don't hesitate to drop a few coins into his wet hat. The blind man nods and quietly thanks them. Blind people have an amazing sense of hearing. Suddenly, a young man passes by. He initially walks past but then turns back, crumples up a worn bill and tosses it into the hat. The old man listens intently and says, "As always, thank you for your kindness." A mother and her child who wears a small pink hat slowly walk by, careful on the slippery path. The child, holding tightly to a sandwich wrapped in shiny paper, stops and whispers something to her mother. Smiling, the mother hands her a bill from her wallet. The child carefully places the money in the old man's hat and picks up a few coins that had almost fallen out. "I'm giving this to you," the child says. "Thank you," the old man responds shakily, his hands reaching towards the tattered hat. The child walks back to where her mother stands, but suddenly returns to the old man. She places her sandwich in his hands and says with a bright smile, "Here, you can have this so it doesn't get cold." The old man holds the warm sandwich, his clouded eyes filling with tears. The mother smiles from a distance, waves to her child, and they head home. The rain grows heavier, but the old man holds the warm sandwich, undeterred by the raindrops falling on his hat in front of him. In our busy lives, full of worries about daily needs, we often forget that human kindness is truly invaluable. The young girl in this story teaches us a profound lesson about how to treat those around us, especially those less fortunate, like the old blind beggar. 5. Don't judge by appearances, look at the heart. A father had a special passion for cars. He saved money for a very long time to buy his dream car. When he finally got it, he would wash and wax the car every day. Taking care of the car became a joy for him. His son, Jake, saw how much his dad loved the car and often helped with the washing. They were very happy doing this together. One day, after a heavy rain, the car was covered in mud. The father was too tired and said to Jake, "We'll wash it another day." Jake, having some free time, offered to wash the car himself. The father agreed but forgot that Jake was only 5 years old. He went to rest and didn't prepare any cleaning supplies for Jake. Excited, Jake went out to wash the car but couldn't find a cloth. He thought of the steel wool his mom used to scrub pots clean and decided to use it. Jake scrubbed the car with the steel wool over and over, When he was done, he saw scratches all over the car. He touched the spots and felt the rough and uneven surface. Scared, Jake started crying and ran to his dad's room, sobbing, "Dad, I'm sorry. Come see the car." The father rushed out and couldn't believe his eyes when he saw his beloved car in such a bad state. He was speechless for a long time, then finally exclaimed, "Oh, my car, my car." Filled with anger, he went back inside, looked up and said, "God, this car took all my savings to buy, and now, in less than a month, it's ruined. Please tell me, what should I do? How should I punish my son?" Just as he finished his plea, a thought came to his mind. In this world, you can't judge everything by appearances. You have to look at the heart. Seeing his son with tears streaming down his face, looking scared and guilty, the father slowly approached. Jake began to tremble. The father hugged his little boy, with tears in his eyes, and said, "Thank you for helping me wash the car. I love you, even more than the car." If you want to have a content heart, you must learn to appreciate and be grateful for what you already have. Understand that material things are temporary and life is not a competition. The more grateful you are in the present, the more positive and happy you will be in the future.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
6. The best time of life. A young man, approaching his 30s, often worries about his future. He wonders whether the best years of his life are yet to come or if they are already behind him. His daily routine includes going to the gym before heading to work. One morning, he notices an elderly man at the gym who, despite his age, appears strong and optimistic. He strikes up a conversation with the old man, and they talk about life experiences. Eventually, the young man asks, "What was the best time of your life?" Without hesitation, the old man answers, "When I was a child, being cared for and nurtured by my parents was the best time of my life. During my school years, learning new things from teachers and classmates was the best time of my life. When I got my first job, taking on responsibilities and earning a salary from my own efforts was the best time of my life. When I met my wife and we fell in love, building a life together was the best time of my life. When I became a father, watching my children grow up was the best time of my life. And now, at 79 years old, I am healthy, I feel happy, and I love my wife as much as when we first met. This is the best time of my life." The old man explains that every stage of life can be the best if we appreciate it and live fully, instead of letting time pass us by uselessly. Many people complain about low wages and lack motivation, and when they earn more, they are only happy for a few months before feeling dissatisfied again. Some have stable jobs but find them monotonous. Therefore, understand that every stage of life can be the best if we cherish it and live to the fullest. Don't let time slip away meaninglessly. 7. The story of the elephant and the rope. A man was walking through an elephant camp when he noticed that the elephants were not kept in cages or held by chains. The only thing stopping these elephants from escaping was a small rope tied to one of their legs. As he looked at the elephants, the man was completely puzzled as to why they didn't use their strength to break the rope and run away. It would have been easy for them, but instead, they didn't try at all. Curious and wanting to know the answer, he asked a trainer nearby why the elephants just stood there and never tried to escape. The trainer replied, "When they were young and much smaller, we used the same size rope to tie them. At that age, it was enough to hold them. As they grew up, they were conditioned to believe they couldn't break free. They believe the rope can still hold them, so they never tried to break free." The only reason these elephants weren't breaking free and escaping was that over time they adopted the belief that it wasn't possible. Lesson learned. No matter how much the world tries to hold you back, Always believe that what you want to achieve is possible. Believing you can succeed is the most important step in actually achieving it. Your belief defines who you are, but sometimes letting go of an old belief can make life better, instead of holding on to a belief that prevents us from moving forward. Holding on to old beliefs in a constantly changing world can make it hard to succeed. So, sometimes you need to let go of the past and move forward with new beliefs. 8. Character is the highest degree a person can earn. A young man was waiting for his job interview when suddenly an older man approached him, shook his hand, and said, "I've finally found you. Thank you so much for saving my daughter from falling into the lake." 1. "Sir, I think you've mistaken me for someone else. I didn't save your daughter," the young man honestly replied. 2. "It was you, I am sure of it," the older man insisted again. Confused and unsure, the young man continued to deny it. "Sir, I've never even been to that park." 3. Hearing this, the older man let go of his hand, looking disappointed. "Could I have mistaken someone else?" 4. Later, the young man received a job offer. One day he saw the older man again and approached him to ask, "Sir, have you found the person who saved your daughter?" 5. "No, I still haven't found him," the man replied quietly and walked away. 6. The young man felt heavy-hearted and shared the story with a colleague who burst out laughing and said, "That man is our company's CEO. The story of his daughter falling into the water is just a tale he often uses to select talented employees. He doesn't actually have a daughter." 7. "What?" the young man exclaimed in surprise. His colleague continued, "Our CEO often uses this method to choose the right people. He says that those who pass his test of character can truly be shaped into talents." 8. Character is life's true credential. In moments when people sway between good and evil, character is the final support for the soul. 9. Character is the laurel wreath and glory of life, the most valuable asset one can possess. It forms a person's status and identity, representing all their honorable achievements. 10. Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States, once said, "To have education without morals is to be a menace to society. To have morals without education is to be insignificant." 11. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, also said, "Character is like a tree and reputation its shadow. We often think of the shadow without realizing that the tree is what casts it." 12. Ancient wisdom teaches, character is the highest degree. Only those with both talent and virtue are truly wise and genuinely talented. 9. The boulder in the road and the reward for overcoming obstacles. Once upon a time in a kingdom, the king wanted to test his people's character. He ordered a big boulder to be placed in the middle of a busy road. Then, the king disguised himself as a commoner to watch who would move the boulder out of the way. Many wealthy merchants and the king's courtiers passed by, but they all just walked around the boulder. Some even blamed the king for not keeping the roads clear, but no one did anything to solve the problem. One day, a farmer bringing vegetables to market came to the boulder. He put down his load and tried to push the boulder out of the way. After he succeeded, he found a bag full of gold coins and a note from the king. The note said the gold was for the person who removed the boulder from the road. Lesson: every obstacle we face is an opportunity to improve ourselves. While lazy people complain, others create opportunities with kindness, generosity, and a willingness to act. We often encounter obstacles on our path. Turn these challenges into opportunities for yourself. Hopefully, this story about the boulder in the road will offer you a valuable life lesson. 10. Potatoes, eggs, coffee, and a life lesson. Once, a young girl complained to her father that her life was miserable and she didn't know how to handle the difficulties she faced. She explained how tired she was feeling and didn't know how to fight against these challenges. Her father stood up and asked her to follow him to the kitchen. He then took out 3 pots, filled them with water, and placed them on the stove. Once the water in all 3 pots was boiling, he put different ingredients into each pot: potatoes, eggs, and coffee beans. They sat quietly, waiting for the ingredients to cook, without saying a word to each other. The girls seemed impatient and puzzled, wondering what they were doing. After 20 minutes, the father turned off the burners. He took the potatoes, eggs, and coffee beans out of the pots. Then he turned to his daughter and asked, "What do you see?" She quickly responded, "Aren't those just potatoes, eggs, and coffee beans?" "Take a closer look and touch the potato," he said. She did and noted that it had become soft and tender. He then asked her to peel the egg. After that, he told her to sip the coffee. The girl felt refreshed by the pleasant aroma of the hot coffee. Still surprised, she asked, "I don't understand. What are we doing?" Her father explained, "The potato, eggs, and coffee beans each faced the same adversity, the boiling water. However, each reacted differently. The tough potato became soft and weak, the fragile egg became firm and strong, and the coffee beans were unique. They changed the water itself into something new and special." "So, which will you be like when facing life's difficulties?" He smiled and asked. The young girl realized she had found the answer to all her concerns about life. In life, we all face many obstacles and difficulties. However, the most important thing may be how we choose to face them. That is what defines us. Life is really shaped by how we accept and strive to transform every challenge into a lesson, turning it into something optimistic that motivates us to become stronger and more resilient. 11. The story of perseverance. Kerr used to work for a publishing company. When he first joined, he was an advertising sales representative. He was very confident in himself and proposed to his manager that he would work without a salary and only earn commissions from ad sales. The manager agreed to his proposal. Kerr then made a list and planned to visit some special clients. The sales staff at the company believed that these clients were impossible to work with. Before visiting these clients, Kerr locked himself in his room, stood in front of a mirror, read the list of clients 10 times, and told himself, "This month, you will buy our ad space." With great confidence, he visited the clients and closed deals with 3 out of the 20 clients who were considered impossible. A few days later, he closed 2 more deals, and by the end of the month, only 1 out of the 20 clients hadn't bought ads from him. In the second month, Kerr didn't look for new clients but focused on convincing the last one on his list. Every morning, as soon as the store opened, he would go in and try to persuade them to buy ads, and each time he was refused. Each time they said no, Kerr pretended not to hear and returned the next day. On the 30th day, the store owner asked Kerr, "You've spent a whole month trying to convince me to buy your ads. What I want to know is, why are you so persistent?" Kerr replied, "I'm not wasting my time. I'm learning, and you are my teacher. You've taught me to persevere through adversity." The business owner nodded and said, "I too am learning, and you are my teacher. You've taught me the value of persistence. This lesson is worth more than money to me, and to show my gratitude, I'll buy your ad space as my tuition fee to you." In reality, failure doesn't matter as much as our attitude towards facing challenges with persistence. We must always maintain a resilient spirit and never bow down to difficulties. Remember, success never comes easily. To enjoy the fruits, you must be the one to plant the seeds, patiently nurture the tree, and protect it through all storms. 12. Good news. A recent college graduate who was looking for a job participated in a nationwide university-sponsored innovation competition. After several preliminary rounds that lasted a month, he made it to the finals among the top contestants. After a challenging 3-day final round, he overcame his competitors and won first place, receiving a significant cash prize that he had never dreamed of as a student. After leaving the auditorium and quickly avoiding the press cameras, he went to the parking lot to head home. Suddenly, a woman approached him, tearfully saying, "Hey, congratulations on winning first place in this tough competition. I have something to tell you, but I'm not sure if it's appropriate. You'd understand if you have kids. My child has severe cancer and is in the hospital. We desperately need a large sum of money." "How much do you need?" the graduate asked, genuinely empathetic. After listening to the woman's story, he immediately took out the envelope with his prize money and gave it all to her. "I hope your child gets through this. You should go take care of them," he said. "Thank you. I don't know how I could ever repay you," the woman said, moved as she walked away. A few days later, when he returned to campus, someone approached him and said, "I heard you met a woman after the competition and gave her money for her dying child's treatment. Is that true?" The young man nodded in confirmation. "Well, I need to tell you this. That woman is a scam artist. She doesn't actually have a sick child at all. You were too trusting." After a moment of silence, the young man asked, "So, there really isn't a dying child?" "That's right, I assure you," the man confirmed. "Oh, that's the best news I've heard all day," the young man replied. He added, "We should celebrate that no child is dying." This story, Good News, sends a message that life's meaning doesn't come from what it brings us, but how we respond to it. A Russian proverb says, "If I have 2 loaves of bread, I would sell one to buy roses, because the soul also needs nourishment." Indeed, the soul is the most vulnerable part of us and needs the most care. A beautiful soul should be seeded with hope, happiness, and faith and tended to daily. Life lessons from these short stories act as a soothing hand on the soul, offering encouragement and strength to help us overcome mental barriers and challenges in life, affirm ourselves, pursue dreams, and reach for greater things. Through unfortunate events, ordinary stories, and humble people, these stories emphasize the spirit of overcoming and triumphing, not the extraordinary. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. 13. 3 Great Teachers. When Hassan, a wise Muslim sage, was nearing the end of his life, someone asked him, "Hassan, who is your teacher?" Hassan replied, "I have countless teachers. Naming them all would take months, even years, and I don't have much time left. But I can tell you about 3 of my teachers." The first teacher was a thief. Once I got lost in the desert and reached a village late at night. Everyone was asleep, but I finally found a man who was breaking into a house. I asked if I could stay somewhere, and he said, "It's late, hard to find a place now. You can stay with me if you don't mind being with a thief." He was amazing. I stayed with him for a month. Every night he would say, "I'm off to work. Pray for me." When he returned, I would ask, "Did you get anything?" And he would always reply, "Not today, but maybe tomorrow." He was never in despair, always happy. One time I spent years meditating but couldn't find any truth. I became so hopeless I thought of giving up. Then I remembered the thief who always said, "Maybe tomorrow." The second teacher was a dog. I went to a river to drink water and saw a dog. It was also thirsty, but when it saw its reflection, it thought it was another dog and got scared. It howled and ran away, but its thirst made it come back. Finally, despite its fear, it jumped into the water and the reflection disappeared. I realized this was a message for me. to overcome fear through action. The third teacher was a child. I went to a city and saw a child carrying a lit candle to a temple. I asked, "Did you light this candle yourself?" The child said, "Yes." Then I asked, "Before it was lit, where did the light come from?" The child laughed, blew out the candle, and said, "Now you see the light is gone. Tell me where it went." My pride and knowledge shattered. I realized my own ignorance and let go of my pride in my knowledge. It's true that I have no single teacher, but that doesn't mean I'm not a learner. I consider everything my teacher. My spirit of learning is greater than anyone else's. I learn from everything, from trees and grass to clouds in the sky. I don't have one teacher because I have millions. The key to life is always being a student. What does this mean? It means being able to learn, always ready to accept the meaning of things. The teacher is someone through whom we learn how to learn. Life is a school for growth. Everyone and every experience comes to teach us the lessons we need most at that moment in our lives. We can be aware of this, or we can close our eyes to it. If we do, we keep repeating past mistakes until the pain becomes so great that we have no choice but to change. 14. Packing for the journey. People often say that life is the longest journey, yet it's also the shortest. Whether it lasts 60 years, 70 years, or even over 100 years, how many of us can confidently say we've lived each day well without doing anything we're ashamed of? That's why the most important thing we carry through life is a strong, determined, and loving heart. That's enough. A monk wanted to go study far away. His master asked, "When will you leave?" "Next week. It's a long journey, and I've asked someone to weave a few pairs of grass shoes. Once I get the shoes, I'll be on my way." The master thought for a moment, then said, "Alternatively, I could ask the congregation to donate shoes for you." It's unclear how many people the master spoke to, but that day, dozens of people brought shoes, filling a corner of the meditation room. The next morning, someone brought an umbrella as a gift for the monk. "Why are you giving me an umbrella?" asked the monk. "The master mentioned that you're preparing for a long journey and you might encounter heavy rain. He asked if I could give you an umbrella." That day, not just one, but by evening, about 50 umbrellas of various kinds were piled in the meditation room. After the evening class, the master entered the monk's meditation room. "Do you have enough grass shoes and umbrellas?" "Yes, master." The monk pointed at the pile of umbrellas and shoes stacked like a small mountain in the corner. "It's too much. I can't take all of this with me." "What if?" the master said. "Sometimes it rains. Sometimes it's sunny. Who can predict how far you will go? How many times you will be soaked? What if all the grass shoes wear out and the umbrellas are lost? Then what will you do?" Pausing for a moment, he continued, "On your journey, you will surely cross many streams. Tomorrow, I will ask the congregation to donate a boat, and you should take it along." At this point, the monk realized the intention of his master. He knelt on the ground, saying, "I will leave right now, master, and I will take nothing with me." From this story, it's clear. When doing anything, what matters is not how well we prepare the external items, but whether we have the determination. With determination and clear goals, everything else is no longer a problem, no longer an obstacle. Carry your heart on your journey. The goal might seem far, but the path is right beneath your feet. Just start walking, and you will get there. Even if you take only one step, it means you have made progress. Just bring your heart along, and all else will follow. 15. Lesson of the 1,000 marbles. I'm not really great at managing my time or my tasks. In fact, the less busy I am and the less pressure I have, the lazier and less efficient I tend to be. It's something I definitely need to work on. Here's an old story that left a big impression on me about how short life is and the importance of valuing our time. After all, time is the most precious asset we have, right? Nothing wakes you up more than seeing your remaining time on Earth shrinking, and it helps you understand what's truly important. As I get older, I've come to really enjoy Saturday mornings. Maybe it's the quiet and stillness of being the first one up, or the joy of not having to go to work. Whatever it is, those first few hours on a Saturday morning always bring me the most joy. A few weeks ago, on a Saturday morning, I was sitting with my steaming coffee, reading the newspaper and listening to the radio. A warm, captivating voice of an older man was speaking to someone named Tom about the story of 1,000 marbles. Curious, I stopped reading and listened. "Hey, Tom, it sounds like you're really busy with your job. I'm sure they pay you well, but it's not worth it if you're always away from home and family. It's hard to believe that someone as young as you is working 60 to 70 hours a week to make ends meet. It's a shame you missed your daughter's performance." He continued, "Let me tell you something, Tom. Something that helped me prioritize my life." And he began to explain his theory of the 1,000 marbles. You see, one day I did a little math. The average person lives about 75 years. I know some live longer and some die sooner, but on average, people live about 75 years. Then I multiplied 75 years by 52 weeks, which gives 3,900, the total number of Saturdays in a person's life. Now, Tom, pay attention. This is important. "I was 55 years old when I thought this through," he continued, "and by then I had lived over 2,800 Saturdays. If I live to be 75, I only have about 1,000 Saturdays left. So I went to a toy store and bought every marble they had. I had to visit 3 stores to buy 1,000 marbles. I put them in a large plastic container next to my usual sitting spot. Every Saturday since then, I've taken 1 marble out and thrown it away. I found that watching the marbles dwindle, I focused more on what really mattered in life. Nothing wakes you up more than seeing your remaining time on Earth shrinking, and it helps you understand what's truly important. Now, Tom, I'll tell you one last thing before I stop this conversation to take my lovely wife out for breakfast. This morning, I took the last marble out of the container. If I make it through next Sunday, God has given me a little extra time to spend with my loved ones." It was nice talking to you, Tom. I hope you spend more time with your loved ones, and maybe we'll talk again someday. Have a great morning. There was silence after he finished. I think he made all of us think deeply. That morning I had some things planned, but I decided to run upstairs and wake my wife with a kiss. "Get up, honey. I'm taking you and the kids out for breakfast." "What's the special occasion?" my wife asked with a smile. "Nothing special," I said. "It's just that we haven't had much time together as a family. Oh, and let's stop by the toy store on the way. I need to buy some marbles." 16. Giving and receiving. One day, a young student went for a walk with his professor, who was affectionately known as the student's friend because of his friendly and kind nature towards the students. As they walked, they came across a pair of old shoes in the middle of the road. They figured the shoes belonged to a poor farmer who might be finishing his day's work in a nearby field. The student turned to the professor and suggested, "Let's play a trick on the farmer. I'll hide his shoes and we'll hide behind those bushes to see how he reacts when he can't find them." The professor stopped him. "Hey, young man, we should never use the poor for our amusement. But as a well-off student, you can find a greater joy through this farmer. Put a coin in each shoe and wait to see his reaction." The student did as the professor suggested, and they hid behind nearby bushes. Soon the farmer finished his work and walked across the field to where his shoes and jacket were. As he put on his jacket and slipped his foot into one of the shoes, he felt something hard inside. He bent down to see what it was and found a coin. His face showed utter surprise. He carefully examined the coin, turning it over in his hands. Then he looked around but saw no one. He put the coin in his pocket and continued to the other shoe, where his surprise doubled upon finding a second coin. Overwhelmed with emotion, the farmer knelt down, looked up to the sky, and loudly thanked the unseen but generous hands that had brought just the right gift to save his family from hardship, his sick wife without care, and his children from hunger. The student was moved to tears by the sight. The professor then asked, "Do you feel happier now than if you had played a joke on him?" The young man replied, "Professor, you've taught me a lesson I'll never forget. I now understand the true meaning of the phrase I didn't understand before. Giving is more fulfilling than receiving." Through the story Giving and Receiving, we learn that when we give, we do not lose. Instead, we receive what we deserve, notably the happiness of this poor farmer. So, don't hesitate to give someone a gift, because you will receive the joy and happiness of another person, and their joy also brings joy to your heart. However, in today's more developed society, you don't have to do things exactly as in the story. Instead, do the best things for your family and friends, as they are the ones who impact your life. Giving small but meaningful gifts to your loved ones is already a way to bring joy to yourself. 17. 2 grains of rice. There were 2 grains of rice chosen to be seeds for the next season because they were both good, healthy, and full. One day, the farmer decided to plant them in the nearby field. The first grain thought to itself, "Why should I go out to the field? I don't want to be crushed in the soil. It's best to keep all my nutrients in this shell and find a nice place to hide." So it rolled into a hidden corner of the barn. The second grain eagerly awaited being planted in the ground. It was truly happy to start a new life. Time passed, and the first grain dried up in the corner because it didn't get any water or sunlight. Its nutrients were useless. It slowly withered away. Meanwhile, the second grain, though crushed in the soil, grew into a golden rice plant full of new grains. It brought forth a new generation of rice seeds. Our lives have no meaning if we just try to protect ourselves in our shells. Sometimes, we need to face challenges, go through difficulties, and endure pain to live a meaningful life. We cannot avoid getting hurt, but we can learn and grow from these experiences. Be brave and walk your own path, no matter how hard it may be. We need to look for opportunities to contribute to society and create valuable things. Only by stepping out, facing challenges, and enduring pain can life be truly worth living and meaningful. 18. 3 people went into business selling the same type of apple, but only one succeeded. 3 young men arrived in a remote town looking for business opportunities. The town had an apple orchard with large, deliciously sweet apples that were sold at a very low price. Seeing the tasty and cheap apples, the first young man quickly bought 10 tons of the best apples and took them back to his hometown to sell at double the price. After several rounds of buying and selling, he managed to save quite a bit of money. The second young man thought for a while and then decided to spend half of his money on apple seeds and the other half on renting land to grow his own apples. The third young man admired the apple trees, walked around the orchard for a few days, and finally approached the orchard owner saying, "I want to buy land in this apple orchard." The owner shook his head. "No, we do not sell the land, only the apples." The young man picked up a handful of soil and pleaded, "I really want to buy land here. Please sell me just this handful of soil." Seeing his sincerity, the owner smiled and replied, "All right, seeing how earnest you are, I'll sell you the land and include some apple seeds as well." The young man took the soil back to his hometown and had experts analyze its composition, moisture content, light conditions, and water sources to assess the potential of the project. Later, he rented a hillside, altered the soil there to match what he had brought back, and began planting the precious apple variety. Within a year, he had a lush orchard brimming with apples just as good as those in the town's orchard. So what happened to the other two young men? The first, initially thriving in business, eventually faced harsh competition and significant risk due to transportation, leading to substantial losses. The second, despite his diligent care and nurturing, could not produce fruits as large, fragrant, and sweet as those from the town's orchard due to unsuitable soil conditions, and thus also faced financial losses. The third young man, by investing in research and improving the soil at home, enjoyed thriving crops without the need for risky long-distance transport, selling locally and attracting an increasing number of customers, quickly achieving resounding success throughout the region. We can see that starting from the same point, successful business people not only need to work hard and consider immediate benefits, but more importantly, must have long-term vision and solve problems from the root, making steady and firm steps. As a result, their success is more enduring. While there are exceptions, as the saying goes, effort lies with man, success with heaven. Generally, successful people have a far-sighted vision, dare to act, and are diligent and hard-working, qualities essential for success in both business and life.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
19. God gave only one shoe. There was a boy born into a poor family in America. From childhood through his school years, he wore the same pair of torn shoes. The boy heard that on Christmas, if you ask God for something in any store, the owner would fulfill your wish. On Christmas Day, the boy saw beautiful shoes in a shoe store. He went inside and told the owner, "Today is Christmas. I really like these shoes. Can you ask God to give me these shoes?" The owner looked at the boy's worn-out shoes and understood. He took the shoes and said, "All right, kid, I'll ask God." Then he took the shoes to the back. After a while, the owner returned with only one shoe and said, "God said he'll only give you one shoe. You have to find a way to earn money for the other one." The boy asked, "How much do I need to buy the other shoe?" The owner replied, $2. The boy said, "Okay, I'll find a way to earn the money, but please keep the other shoe for me." The owner smiled and said, "Don't worry, I will." The boy went home and saved $2 by collecting recyclables. He happily ran to the store and paid the owner. The owner praised the boy and gave him the other shoe. From that day, the boy had a new, beautiful pair of shoes. As he grew up, the boy did many jobs, such as lifeguard, commentator, and broadcaster. He eventually entered the arts and became a famous star. In 1980, this boy became the 40th President of the United States, Ronald Reagan. During his presidency, a reporter asked President Reagan what had the greatest impact on his growth. He shared the story of God gave only one shoe from his childhood. Reagan said, "Later, I found out that the shoes originally cost $38, with one shoe being worth $19. But the store owner only charged me $2 to teach me this. God won't give you everything you want. He'll only give you a part. You must work hard to get the rest. If you have a good heart, you'll be blessed. If you have a desire, you'll have strength." If this story is true, it can be said it was a motivation for everyone. Without that shoe store owner, there wouldn't be the President Reagan known to the world. Successful people often say, "Concepts change destiny, and ideas decide the way out." Setting the right concept can be more valuable. If the boy had met a different owner who mocked or scolded him, he might not have felt the presence of God, and his efforts might have been discouraged. But the shoe store owner understood the boy's thinking and taught him that there are no free meals in life. Even if God wanted to send you mountains of gold, you'd still have to dig them out and carry them. The boy finally earned his reward through his hard work. Through this process, he felt God's grace and the warmth and care for his diligence. Success is determined by how you choose your path and your determination. The Almighty will bless your efforts and give you faith and motivation. In this world, nothing is free. Strive to create the values you desire. That is the most precious thing. 20. Don't try to change the world. Start with yourself. Once upon a time, in a vast kingdom ruled by a dedicated and powerful king, he decided to travel to the far reaches of his realm to personally see how the common people lived. The kingdom was so large that the journeys were long and the roads rough. By the time he returned, the king was not only exhausted, but his feet were also in severe pain. Frustrated with the painful travels, the king issued a decree to cover all the kingdom's paths with animal fur. This command was incredibly difficult and costly to fulfill, but no one dared to advise the king otherwise. Then one wise servant suggested a more practical solution. Why should our kingdom spend so much? Why not use the animal fur to cover our own bare feet? This way, your Majesty's feet would not hurt and we could save time and resources. Everyone was surprised by this suggestion, but eventually the king agreed, and thus the first pair of shoes in history was born. A saying that inspires young people goes, "Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it." Instead of trying to change the external world or blaming circumstances, look within to understand yourself. Sometimes the simplest things are best. We don't need to force the world or others to change for us. All we need is to change our thinking and improve ourselves, which is entirely within our capabilities. Take time to reflect on what has happened to you and how you have reacted. The closer you walk towards the light, the larger your shadow becomes. So, before you aim for big goals, learn to change and improve your flaws. Change yourself, and the world around you will change. This mindset can be applied in work or in family matters with your spouse and children. If you know you need to change but don't know where to start, be strong. Start with small daily actions like learning to find the root causes, solutions, how to apologize, or how to accept and forgive. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. 21. No one is useless. There was a young man who didn't get into college. His parents found him a wife, and after getting married, he started teaching at a local elementary school. Without any experience, he was rejected by the students within a week and got fired. When he came home, his wife gently wiped his tears and comforted him, saying, "There are many things in life that don't go our way. Some people can handle it and some can't. Don't be sad. There will be better opportunities for you." Later, he worked as a laborer, but his boss sent him home because he was too slow. His wife said, "People have different speeds. Those workers have been doing this for years, but you're just a student who reads books. How can you be as fast as them?" He tried many jobs, but most of them didn't work out. However, every time he came home disappointed, his wife always comforted him and never complained. When he was over 30, he became a teaching assistant at a school for the disabled, using his natural language skills. Eventually, he built another school for the disabled. He then established many branches in various cities and became a wealthy man. One day, when he was successful, he asked his wife, "When I felt hopeless, what made you always believe in me?" She replied simply, "A piece of land might not be good for growing wheat, but you can try growing beans. If beans don't work, try cucumbers. If cucumbers also fail, scatter some buckwheat seeds and they will surely bloom, because a piece of land will always have a suitable seed that will eventually yield a harvest." 22. The wooden bowl. An elderly, frail man lived with his son's family, including his daughter-in-law and 4-year-old grandson. His eyesight was poor, his hands trembled, and he walked unsteadily. The family would dine together at the table. However, the grandfather's shaky hands and blurry vision made eating difficult. Beans would drop from his spoon onto the floor, and he often clumsily spilled milk on the tablecloth. This mess at dinner became a growing annoyance for his son and daughter-in-law. "We need to do something about Grandpa," the son confided to his wife. "I've had enough of the spilled milk and messy eating with food all over the floor," the wife exclaimed angrily. Then they set up a small table in a corner of the room. At that corner table, the grandfather ate alone while the rest of the family enjoyed dinner at the main table. After breaking a few dishes, they gave him a wooden bowl. Occasionally, the family would glance his way, finding him tearful from eating alone. The harsh words and gestures of the couple when he dropped food or spilled something were understood by the 4-year-old, even though he said nothing. One evening before dinner, the father saw his son playing with the grandfather's leftover wooden bowl on the floor. Lovingly, he asked, "What are you doing?" The boy innocently replied, "I'm making a little bowl for you and Mom to eat from when I grow up." The child smiled and returned to his task. The son's words struck the father silently, tears streaming down his face. Without a word, they both knew what they needed to do. That night, the father took the grandfather by the hand and brought him back to the main dining table. From that day on, the grandfather dined with the family again. Both the husband and wife made sure to care for him longer, even if he continued to drop food or spill milk. The story of the wooden bowl teaches parents and children an important lesson. Every human life progresses through stages from youth to old age, a natural cycle of birth, aging, sickness, and death. The parents who raised us deserve to be cared for in their old age, just as they cared for us in our youth. The way we treat our parents will likely be how our children treat us. As children, the first impressions and memories deeply imprint on their minds, so it's important to help them preserve loving and respectful images of their parents and family. 23. The Farmer's Sandals. A young student was walking with his professor. On the way, they saw an old pair of sandals lying by the roadside. They guessed the sandals belonged to a farmer working hard in the nearby field. The student said, "Teacher, let's hide these sandals and see how the farmer reacts." The teacher replied, "Never make fun of someone in need for your own amusement. Instead, why don't you put a coin in each sandal and see his reaction?" The student followed the teacher's advice, and they both waited nearby. When the poor farmer finished his work and came to put on his sandals, he felt something under his feet. He bent down and was surprised to find a coin inside one of the sandals. He examined the coin closely, turning it over repeatedly. Then he put on the other sandal and found the second coin. The farmer knelt down, looked up at the sky, and thanked the heavens sincerely. This gift came at the right time to help his family in their difficult situation. His wife was sick, and his children were often hungry. Not far away, the student was deeply moved, his eyes welling up with tears. The teacher gently said, "Do you feel happier now than if you had made fun of him? You've taught me the true meaning of giving is receiving. I will never forget this lesson." Many people believe that receiving brings happiness and that giving means losing something. But in reality, giving brings the greatest joy. The best part of giving is the peace and serenity it brings to the soul. As Scottish author Henry Drummond said, "There is no happiness in having or getting, but only in giving." You don't need to be rich to give. Even in poverty, there are valuable things to give beyond material possessions. It can be your spirit, kindness, empathy, sharing someone's sorrow, or encouraging others to help. Simply spending time with someone in need can be a form of giving. We can give in many ways as long as our hearts are open. The value of giving is not measured by material wealth, but by the love and intention behind it. Giving and receiving are like planting and harvesting. The universe operates with a fair law of cause and effect. You reap what you sow. The fruit we get is not just in this life, but also in future lives. Giving is a wonderful way to accumulate good karma. The more people we help, the more we deposit in the karma bank. One day, when we are in need, we will receive help in return, perhaps even more than we gave. Modern life is often seen as increasingly materialistic. But even if many people prioritize their own interests, we should live true to our hearts. Don't wait for someone to ask for help to show you care and love them. Don't wait for someone to be desperate before you offer a helping hand. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. 24. The water well. A Zen master was traveling around the world and fell seriously ill when he reached a certain mountain area. He was rescued and cared for by a widow who owned a small tea shop. Even though she knew nothing about the Zen master and her shop had few customers and little money, she still took great care of him. After more than 3 months, the Zen master recovered. Touched by the kindness of the tea shop owner, he spent a week before leaving to dig a well next to her shop so she could easily use the water and not have to carry it from a distant spring. Unexpectedly, once she started using the well water for her tea, it developed a uniquely delicious aroma and taste. Everyone who tried it kept coming back. Word spread, and her tea shop became bustling with customers. The widow became wealthy because of this. Sometime later, the Zen master visited the shop to check on the woman who had helped him. He was pleased to see her thriving business. When he asked about the well, the widow complained that the water level kept dropping and it took days to refill, so she never had enough to serve all her customers. The Zen master shook his head and said, "It costs you nothing, this gift from nature, and you've made so much money, yet you still aren't satisfied." He wrote on the wall, "The world is vast, but human greed is even vaster." Then he quietly left and never returned to the shop again. The well gradually dried up. Like the widow, many of us are never satisfied with what we have. We often compare ourselves to others, always wanting more, forgetting to enjoy the present. The world's riches are limited, and human greed is like a bottomless bag. No matter how much wealth it contains, it can never be filled. If people keep fostering their greed, in the end, they gain nothing. 25. Who helps us in difficult times? Once, a person was standing under a roof during a rainstorm when they saw the Bodhisattva Kuan Yin passing by with an umbrella. The person asked, "Bodhisattva Kuan Yin, please help all beings. Can I walk with you under your umbrella?" Kuan Yin replied, "You are standing under a sheltered roof and I'm walking in the rain. Why do you need saving? You are dry and protected from the rain." The person then stepped out into the rain and said, "Now I am in the rain like you. Can I walk with you under your umbrella?" Kuan Yin said, "I'm standing in the rain with an umbrella and not getting wet. You are getting wet because you don't have an umbrella. It's not me saving myself, it's the umbrella. If you want to be saved, don't look for me, look for an umbrella." With that, Kuan Yin left. The next day, the same person faced a difficult situation and went to a temple to pray to Kuan Yin. As soon as they entered, they saw someone who looked just like Kuan Yin bowing in front of the statue of Kuan Yin. The person asked, "Are you Bodhisattva Kuan Yin?" The other replied, "Yes, I am." The person then asked, "Why are you bowing to yourself?" Kuan Yin answered, "I also face difficulties, but instead of asking others for help, I seek help from myself." So what is the lesson Kuan Yin is teaching us? It's self-reliance. When you create your own problems, you should solve them yourself. Life is complicated, but people tend to exaggerate their troubles. In our youth, we often complicate things unnecessarily, getting lost in the chaos we create. When we face unhappiness, we torment ourselves, pushing ourselves into a corner. We see minor failures as life's tragedies, losing confidence and falling into despair. Our world becomes one of confusion and temptation. We rush through life, overwhelmed by problems of our own making, forgetting to address them. Challenges are part of growing up. Only by solving your own issues can you truly conquer them and gain the experience needed for future challenges. Happiness and sorrow are fleeting. The key is to find your own way to handle them. In this world, no one is obligated to help you. If someone does, be grateful. If they don't hold a grudge. Take responsibility for yourself. Only then can you truly mature. 26. The life of a $500 bill. A man gave a brand new $500 bill. A young boy pulled it out, looked at it over and over with fascination. A few days later, he spent the money to buy some marbles. The shopkeeper, pleased with the crisp bill, carefully placed it with other new bills and gave it to a classmate as a gift. One day, this friend gave the small bill of hope to a disabled beggar. The beggar mixed the bill with other dirty coins. What mattered to him at that moment was having enough money to buy medicine for his cold. The bill stayed in a pharmacy under the clean hands of a young pharmacist for a few days. Then it was used to give change to a middle-aged woman. As she walked down the street, her purse was suddenly snatched. The money in her purse was just enough for the thief to buy drugs to satisfy his desperate craving. The bill began to tear a bit with a few small holes. It experienced joy and sorrow passing through many hands, a fish seller, a street sweeper. Once, it even got stained with the blood of a man picking up trash because he scratched himself on a piece of glass. Then, the bill reached a woman selling tea. She used it to give change back to a cute little girl with fair skin. When the girl got home, her mother saw the grimy, dull bill. Furious, she exclaimed that the money was full of germs. She snatched the bill from the girl's hand, accidentally tearing it in half and threw it on the street. The wind blew one half of the bill to the base of a tree and the other half down the street. The next morning, an old woman walking by picked up the half bill soaked with dew and took it home. She joined it with another half bill using transparent tape. When the old lady went to collect her pension, her bicycle tire flattened. She used the money to pay a young boy, about 15 or 16 years old, to pump her tire. That night, the coin, with all sorts of smells, rotten, fishy, sour, spicy, and many bacteria clinging to it, was soaked with the salty taste of the tears of the young boy. Now, the worn-out bill lay peacefully inside a student's paper scribbled with the words, "Keep forever. This is the first money I ever earned." 27. Good news. A college student who just graduated was looking for a job and participated in a creative competition organized by the National University Association. After several rounds of preliminary tests that lasted for a month, he made it to the group of finalists. He struggled through the final round, which lasted for 3 tense days, and won first prize. The reward was a significant amount of money, something he had never dreamed of during his student life. After leaving the hall and quickly avoiding the reporters' cameras, he headed to the parking lot. Unexpectedly, a woman approached him. She was emotional. "Congratulations on winning the difficult competition. It's an honor for you. I have something to ask, but I'm not sure if it's appropriate. If you had a young child, you might understand what I'm about to say. My child is very sick with cancer in the hospital and without a large amount of money." "Comment? How much do you need?" the student asked, genuinely concerned. After listening to her story, he took out the envelope containing his prize money and gave it all to her. "I hope your child gets well soon. Go take care of them now," he said. "Thank you so much. I don't know how to repay you," the woman said, and then she quickly left. A few days later, the student returned to his university. Someone approached him and asked, "Is it true that after the competition you gave money to a woman to help her supposedly dying child?" The student nodded. "Well, I have to tell you that she is a scammer. She doesn't have any sick child. You were tricked, my friend." After a brief silence, the student asked, "So there isn't a dying child, right?" "That's correct. I assure you," the man confirmed. "Oh, that's the best news I've heard all day," the student said, adding, "We should celebrate because no child has to die." The meaning of life isn't what it brings to us, but how we respond to it. It's not what happens to us, but how we react to it. 28. Insight into success and failure. Xiao Sheng was a drummer in his school band. Every morning during the flag salute, all the teachers and students would listen to his drum beats. One day, he missed a few notes and felt very embarrassed. He thought about quitting the band. I told him the following story. Long ago, a father was disappointed in his son because the boy didn't show any manly traits, even though he was 16 years old. The father approached a Zen master for help and asked him to turn his son into a real man. The master said, "I can help, but you must leave your son with me for 3 months, and you cannot visit him during this time. I promise you will be satisfied in 3 months." As promised, the father did not visit. The master organized a martial arts competition for the father to see the outcome. When the competition began, the opponent was a skilled martial arts coach. The coach was well prepared and had to win before attacking. The son, on the other hand, fell to the ground without putting up a fight. However, he never gave up and stood up each time he fell. This continued for more than 20 rounds. The father felt embarrassed and pain but didn't say anything. The son lost painfully in the match. The master asked the father, "Do you now see your son as a real man?" "I feel so ashamed of him. After 3 months of training, what's the result? He's weak and falls when attacked. I don't think he's a real man at all." The father was very disappointed. The master said, "I'm sorry that you only focus on the appearance of failure and success. Don't you see that your son had the courage and spirit to stand up every time he fell? Success is about getting up more times than falling, and that's what a real man does." The father had an epiphany and thanked the master profusely before taking his son home. After hearing the story, Xiao Sheng reflected and told me that he would practice all the wrong notes so everyone could enjoy the music. Lesson learned. We should not only focus on immediate results when doing something. The experiences we gain and the effort we put into our work are what matter most. If life were always smooth and straightforward, we wouldn't be able to appreciate the glory of ultimate success after many failures and not giving up. The most important virtues are learning from experiences and having the courage and perseverance to walk the new path toward ultimate success.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
29. I am number 21. Rid found a job that suited him perfectly from an ad in the newspaper. The ad asked applicants to come to a location on 24th Street on Monday morning. When Rid arrived, there were already 20 people in line ahead of him, so he took the 21st spot. How could he make a good impression on the interviewer? Rid took out a piece of paper, wrote a few lines, folded it, and politely handed it to the secretary, saying, "Please urgently give this note to your boss. It's very important." The secretary found him interesting, opened the note, and couldn't help but laugh. She went into the boss's office. After reading the note, the boss laughed too because it said, "Sir, I am number 21 in line. Before you make a decision, please wait to see me. Rid got the job he wanted thanks to his cleverness. Yes, a quick, flexible thinker who is always proactive and aware of the situation can make a difference. Being smart is also a form of wisdom. Cleverness can often turn a losing situation into a winning one. In life, we often face situations where we are at a disadvantage, but with smart thinking, we can turn things around. Cleverness is also a sign of human capability. 30. A special teacher. At the age of 10, we started learning English for the first time, but not in school. Instead, we biked over 3 kilometers to a teacher's house in the neighboring village. In a small, windswept one-room house, a teacher and 4 students eagerly tackled the basics of English. Each lesson cost only 500 dong about 12 years ago. Back then, we 4 kids just focused on learning, not caring if 500 dong was expensive or cheap for an introductory English lesson. Our teacher was truly one of a kind, as were his lessons and his home. The house was a tiny, low building made entirely of concrete. Even the tables and the bed were made from concrete. From a distance, the house looked like a pigeon coop perched on the riverbank. The teacher wrote on a small blackboard hung on the wall while we sat at folding tables, our legs crossed on a concrete bench. He taught us how to say hello and goodbye, slowly moving his tongue so we could mimic the sounds accurately. I still remember a story he told us about a distant Russia, where he had studied, and about a girl he had loved and left behind. He shared with us tales of his youthful dreams in the snowy lands. Something in those stories had broken, had split apart, and now here he was before us. The locals thought him a bit odd and reclusive. His eyes, often wrinkled at the corners, gazed off into the distance. He had a peculiar smile that was warm in front of us, but turned into a baffling grin when he turned away, which I found oddly endearing. Like many farmers, he also grew rice and set shrimp traps in the gently sloping riverbank to make ends meet. He ate some of the shrimp and sold others, putting the larger ones into a concrete tank to grow. Every day, we would play in his shrimp tank, splashing around and causing the shrimp to jump wildly. He would scold us gently, but in such a kind manner that we were never afraid, and so our playful mischief continued daily. He said he was very happy when we came to learn. He enthusiastically taught us the foreign language he once adored. With us around, he was busier than ever, trying to manage our playful antics and ensure we learned well. Even after we stopped taking lessons from him, I often biked past his house, the same tall, slender figure setting shrimp traps along the sloping riverbank, walking unsteadily. I passed by several times, reassured each time by his familiar staggering silhouette against the pounding waves. Then, like the waves themselves, my memories faded, and I no longer remember when I stopped seeing his figure. Today, like any other oblivious former student, I sit recounting these distant memories. I remember him placing the larger shrimp into the concrete tank, hoping they would grow, reminiscent of Cinderella nurturing her magical fish. I always hope he has left that house, that village, to a place of his own, filled with more dreams. Perhaps there, some magical shrimp or fish might reunite him with the woman he once loved. I hope for this because I know that his face, that smile, they don't belong here. They shouldn't stay here. 31. The lesson from the martial arts teacher. A 10-year-old boy decided to learn judo, even though he lost his left arm in a car accident. He started training with a Japanese judo master. After 3 months of hard training, the boy wondered why his teacher had only taught him one move. Unable to hold back his curiosity any longer, he asked his teacher, "Sensei, can I learn more moves?" The teacher replied, "This is the only move I will teach you. It's the only move you need to know." Though he didn't fully understand, the boy trusted his teacher and kept practicing. Months later, the master took the boy to a judo tournament. To the boy's surprise, he easily won his first 2 matches. The third match was harder, but eventually, his opponent lost patience and the boy used his single move to win. Still amazed by his success, he confidently entered the final match. His opponent this time was bigger, stronger, and more experienced. Early in the match, the boy was getting hit and completely overpowered. Concerned for the boy's safety, the referee wanted to stop the match, but the teacher insisted. "Let the boy continue," the master said. As the match resumed, the bigger opponent made a critical mistake by underestimating the boy and letting his guard down. The boy quickly used his one move to pin his opponent down, winning the championship. On the way home, the boy and his teacher reviewed each move from the matches. Gathering his courage, the boy finally asked the question that had been on his mind for so long. "Sensei, how did I become champion with only one move?" The teacher answered, "You won for 2 reasons. First, you've mastered one of the most difficult and effective moves in judo. Second, the only way your opponents could have stopped that move was by grabbing your left arm. But you don't have a left arm. Sometimes a person's weakness can become their greatest strength. Having strengths is good, but turning a weakness into an advantage is even more remarkable. Believe in yourself and you can achieve anything." 32. The Legend of the Tow Bird. The tow bird is a solitary creature that prefers dark places like caves. Its most striking feature is its shimmering tail and wings under the sun, which it always keeps fluttering. Legend has it that because of its dazzling appearance, the tow bird was considered a royal bird, admired and respected by all other animals. This made it very proud. It often told other animals that it couldn't do much work because it would damage its beautiful tail. Valuing its beauty, the other animals volunteered to bring it food and water, even helping it build a nest and a warm place to sleep. The tow bird became lazy, doing nothing all day. It woke up late and leisurely strolled to the royal garden where the most beautiful birds of the forest gathered. All day, they would chat about trivial matters, mock meaningless things, and boast about themselves. It never foraged for its own food, but always wanted the finest meals in the forest. Although the other birds struggled immensely to please the tow bird, it seemed never to be satisfied with anything. One night, a very wise owl announced that a terrible storm was approaching, a kind that only happened every 50 years, devastating the forest each time. They needed a strong shelter to survive this storm. All the birds began to work together. Woodpeckers, long-tailed parrots, and toucans started cutting branches to build a shelter. Larger birds like turkeys carried heavier branches, while smaller birds like crows and quails gathered twigs. As the time grew urgent and dark clouds swirled above, the tow bird still refused to help. It just waited for the others to finish building the shelter. However, the other birds had had enough of its laziness and decided to confront it. They criticized the tow bird's lazy attitude and demanded it help. Reluctantly and fearing being left without shelter, the tow bird finally started to help. But since it had never worked before, it quickly grew tired and frustrated, thinking it wasn't meant for labor. It found a cave and hid inside. As soon as it entered the cave, it fell asleep, not realizing the storm had begun. Thunder woke it, but the brief effort earlier had exhausted it. Worse, the cave was too small, and its beautiful tail didn't fit well. The storm lasted all day and night. The next day, as the sun rose, the birds left their shelters and resumed their lives. The tow bird also left the cave and returned to the royal garden as usual. But as soon as it appeared, everyone burst into laughter. The storm had nearly destroyed its beautiful, radiant tail. Embarrassed, it quickly flew back to the cave and never came out again, Its punishment for its pride and selfishness was to live alone in a remote place and guide explorers through deep caves. The story of the towbird is a profound lesson about humility in life that everyone should understand. Being humble means lowering oneself, treating everyone with respect and modesty without distinction. However, this doesn't mean being ordinary. Lowering oneself is about overcoming pride within. Those who cultivate their character must be humble, as humility allows one to accept the opinions and critiques of others, and only then can one truly reflect on oneself and elevate their character. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.